Hi, I'm Claire and this is BooktubeSFF Babbles number 5, progress update on reading the shortlist for the BooktubeSFF Awards. I'm doing this one slightly late and I didn't do the initial Your Plans for the Shortlist video, and that's because originally I wasn't really planning to read the entire shortlist for the BooktubeSFF Awards, because I was trying to get through a lot of the books that I own that were published in 2015 and eligible to be nominated for a Hugo. So I was dedicating most of my reading time to that Hugo project, which is now finished because the nominations have closed, and I didn't read as much as I wanted for that Hugo nomination project, so I figured that I would kind of push all of my energies towards the BooktubeSFF Award shortlist now. I'm notoriously bad at TBRs, but I'm ever the optimist, so I'm choosing to give it a go. For short fiction, the nominees are Perfect State by Brendan Sanderson, Binti by Nadir Korafor, and Midnight Hour by Mary Robinette Kowal. I have read Binti and Midnight Hour. I enjoyed Binti. I thought it was a really good novella, a nice length, an interesting premise and protagonist, and interesting cultural background, but for some reason it didn't kind of like take off for me the way that it has for many other people that I've seen on BooktubeSFF. I liked it a lot. There was nothing wrong with it, but I didn't adore it. I read Midnight Hour when it first came out in Uncanny Magazine and I absolutely loved it. I'm a fan of Mary Robinette Kowal's writing, and this story in particular I absolutely loved the premise, and specifically the relationships between the two characters, and the idea of the kind of misguided hero who's trying to do the right thing but really messes everything up is another thing that I really enjoyed. I really loved the story, and actually I nominated it for the BooktubeSFF Awards, so I'm really glad that it's on the list. As for Perfect State, I haven't read that, and I actually wasn't planning to read it originally because I thought that it was in Brendan Sanderson's Cosmere universe and that it was kind of linked to some of his other stories, but it's apparently standalone. Since that's a standalone, I'm definitely going to read it, and I already got the audiobook for it from Audible. It was really cheap because it's a very short one. That will be a full house for the short story category, so at least that's one category where I'll have read everything. The nominees for a graphic story are Descender Volume 1, Saga Volume 5, The Wicked and the Divine Volume 2, and Nimona. Now, Descender Volume 1, Tin Stars, which is by Jeff Lemire and Dustin Nguyen, I have just bought and just read, and I absolutely adored it. I bought it for the BooktubeSFF Awards because everybody was raving about it, and I can definitely agree. I love the art style in this, and I really enjoyed the story. I'll definitely be picking up the next volumes when they come out, and it's a contender for my vote for the awards. Now, Saga Volume 5, which is by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples, is one of these books that I bought in the very week of its release and was very excited to read, and then I haven't read it yet. I'm definitely going to read this, and I'm going to read it in time for the awards. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. It's a case where I first read Saga Volume 1 kind of half in the bookstore, and then liked it so much I bought all 4 of them at a time and then binge read them before 5 was out. So when 5 came out, I bought it immediately, but I couldn't remember everything that had happened, and I kind of thought, oh, I'll reread all the series. But now I really want to try and read Volume 5 separately so that I can see where it stands and falls on its own merits. I know a lot of people have said that they didn't like Volume 4 as much, that they thought that 2 and 3 were really the best, and to be honest, when I was reading all of them in a big block, I did not notice a difference at all, so I want to be a bit more careful about this one given that it's reading for the awards. I'm probably going to go and check a quick recap of what happened in 1 through 4 and then get around to reading 5 finally. I read Nimona by Noelle Stevenson earlier this year and I really loved it. It was my first 5-star read of the year, and it's just adorable, but at the same time it has so much depth. When I first saw it, I saw the really cute art style. It really appealed to me. It's a very expressive type of art. But then at the same time I thought, oh, it's going to be just a cute story, and I was really blown away by the feels that it gave me. So this is another strong contender for me. The Wicked and the Divine Volume 2 Fandemonium is the only one that I don't have here. I haven't actually read The Wicked and the Divine. From what I've heard about it online, it sounds like I would really like it. It sounds like an interesting, wacky plotline, and I do really like Jamie McKelvey's art. The only issue here is that I've been buying a lot of graphic novels recently, and they are kind of expensive, and I've been trying to slow down on them, and so I don't know that I want to start a whole new addiction for myself. So I've got to see if either the library has it, or I can borrow it from someone, or there's a slightly less expensive version, maybe on Comixology. If I can't find a way to read it a little bit cheaper, I'm probably going to end up buying it because it's so pretty and I'm a child without any kind of willpower. But probably I should avoid that if I can. Now for the novel categories, we ran into a little bit of a wall because I haven't read any of them yet, and there's only a month to go and 7 books. This is going to be interesting. For the young adult category, we've got Carry On by Rainbow Rowell, Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo, and Illuminae by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. I have Carry On. I definitely want to read Carry On. I think it will read really quickly, even though it's kind of big. I tend not to do TBRs on the channel anymore because I'm so bad at keeping to them, but I always do a little one for myself. And Carry On has been on it forever, so I definitely need to actually read it now. I wasn't especially planning on reading Six of Crows before I saw that it was on the BooktubeSFF Awards shortlist, but I have heard really good things about it on BookTube, and I found it on Audible, so I've bought an audiobook copy, and I hope I'll be able to get to it at some point this month. I think I should be able to because I have a lot of commuting time. Now, I wasn't too interested in reading Illuminae because I kind of thought that it was supposed to be a romance in space. However, I did talk to some lovely BooktubeSFF people who told me that that's not what it's about at all, and that if I just read the book, I'll get to a point in the book where I'll realize that's not what it's about at all. And apparently it reads really quickly. So I have ordered myself a physical copy of this book. Now that I've been told what it's about, which I'm not gonna say because it's a huge spoiler, I am definitely wanting to read it. And finally, for the adult novel category, we have Uprooted by Naomi Novik, A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab, The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin, and Shadows of Self by Brendan Sanderson. I have Uprooted. I bought it when it first came out. I was super excited to read it. I read about 100 pages, and then I started hearing really good things and really bad things about it on BookTube, and there was hype and controversy, and I want to like this book, and I was concerned that I was going to read it and be disappointed, and I've been putting it off, so I need to put on my big girl pants and finish this book, which I really do want to do. The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin I have as an audiobook. I've just started listening to it on my way back from work on Friday, so I'm only a teensy bit way in, and I'm not completely hooked yet, but I trust N.K. Jemisin. I really loved her first novel, The 100,000 Kingdoms, which I had in my favorite fantasy for last week's BooktubeSFF Babbles. So I definitely want to finish reading this one, and given that I've already started the audiobook, it will be done very soon, and hopefully I will love it. Another book that I mentioned in my last Babbles on my favorite fantasy novels was the Mistborn series by Brendan Sanderson, and so obviously I do want to read Shadows of Self, which is the second book in the Wax and Wayne trilogy, which is a sequel to Mistborn. I read The Alloy of Law when it first came out. That's the first Wax and Wayne novel, and I was a bit underwhelmed by it. I thought that it was a bit too short, that it was kind of it left me wanting more. And obviously it's the first book in a trilogy, so that makes sense. But I thought at the time that I would just wait until all 3 books were out, and then I could just read all 3 of them at once, and then I wouldn't feel disappointed. But now that Shadows of Self and the 3rd book, Bands of Mourning, are all out, I definitely want to finish the series. I don't know that I will have time to listen to The Alloy of Law again, so that I can have the whole experience, all 3 books, one after the other. If I don't have time to do that, which would be my preferred way of doing it, I'll have to look at a recap of The Alloy of Law so that I don't miss anything when I read Shadows of Self. It is on the cards. I'm not sure I'll have time to do it properly, but hopefully I'll have time to get to it before the end of the month. As for A Darker Shade of Magic, I'm not sure I'm going to even attempt to read it, because I'm already planning on reading 6 full novels for this, and that's a lot for me in 1 month for the pace that I read at. And it's not that A Darker Shade of Magic doesn't sound like an interesting book, because I've heard summaries from people on BookTube and it does sound good to me, but it's not something that I was planning on reading before it was on the shortlist, and I do not have a copy, so it would kind of mean I have to really go out of my way to read it. And it's not that I don't want to, it's just that it's the last priority in this entire list, and knowing myself and the pace that I read at, it's just not gonna happen. So it's better for me if I just acknowledge that right now, and then if I get to it, it'll be a bonus. So these are my shortlist reading plans for the BooktubeSFF Awards. Probably I should have just said, I need to read all the things, and it would have kind of had a similar effect. But let me know what you've read and what you've loved in the comments below, and hopefully I'll have things to say about all of these books in the coming weeks. If you'd like to see more from me, you can check the sidebar right here for more videos, and if you haven't yet, please hit that subscribe button for new videos from me every week. I've been Claire, thanks so much for watching, and see you soon.